everybody, it's Wallguy! Battlefield 4 is upon us, and there's been a ton of hype and talk about the game from every gaming-related outlet you can possibly think of. They've also released recommended specs for the game, which are not really fully truthful, or not fully correct, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But a Battlefield game launch, it's always a huge event for the entire industry. Starting October 1st at 1 a.m. Pacific time, all eyes will finally be on Battlefield 4, as the beta launch will be available for the first time to the public at large. We'll be able to get our hands on the game and really see what it's all about for ourselves. We'll be right there, of course, from moment one with our Battlefield 4 beta launch party, since we're as eager as anyone to tear right into this game. But real quick, before we go on, please test out that new Levolution on that like button. You can take out the support pillars of that button with some well-placed C4, and let's see if we can get this video to 60 likes. I mentioned our Battlefield 4 launch party coverage blowout coming early October 1st, early morning. Well, if you frequent this channel, you know we put out a new video every other day like clockwork, but our launch parties break from that pattern in a big way. Starting early October 1st, we will be up all night playing Battlefield 4 and releasing new videos for you, interacting with you throughout the time period. And the plan is to release 3 to 5 videos in the first 24 hours and some the next day as well. We'll be playing from the first moment possible, and after our first session we'll start producing videos for you to enjoy. It's not too late to leave requests in the comments section asking for things you'd like to see us do or cover in the Battlefield 4 beta. Of course, all of our footage will be played at absolute maximum settings as always, so your eye candy experience will be awesome. Our videos will also, of course, be using the original quality, or now 1440p as YouTube is changing things around. So you can expect the videos to look perfectly crisp, almost like you're actually sitting there playing the game live. So make sure that you're there to share in all the fun, and if you're not subscribed yet, do it now so you don't miss out on this event. Quickly, I want to talk about this gameplay that you're watching. As you know, Meowth and I have been playing Battlefield 3 more and more to, both enjoy the game and to also be better ready for Battlefield 4 when it releases. We haven't really had a chance to play the game as much as we'd like, but we still made steady improvements and gotten a little bit more comfortable with the game, gotten in some good time a little bit. This game that you're watching was my first time on this map, and I gotta say I really like it. I believe it's called Operation Riverside, and it's really pretty. I mean, Battlefield 3 is still one of the best looking games out there. But anyways, in this game, I feel like I wasn't really hitting up the objectives as hard as I normally do, because as I said, this was my first time on the map, so I was running around testing level boundaries, kind of seeing where the playing field actually existed, trying to figure out where the enemies generally come from. But I still do pretty well individually and managed to stop the enemy team from winning with some awesome critical stops near the end. You'll see, it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's get back to those recommended specs that I mentioned earlier in the commentary. We are about to get our hands on Battlefield 4, and those specs have been out for a little while. I feel like they've kind of caused a lot of confusion for a lot of people. They're worried their hardware is going to come up short somehow. Well, I want to help clear up some of that confusion for those who have doubts, because these specs really aren't as honest as you'd like to see. As far as the minimum specs go, you can kind of trust those for the most part, give or take. But the recommended specs are kind of politically motivated, I'd say, or, business politics. Recommended specs generally refer to the hardware that you're going to need to run the game at or around maximum settings. Let's run down these settings. They're currently recommending Windows 8 64-bit to run this game. Please ignore that. Windows 7 will run the game functionally identical to Windows 8. There's not going to be a noticeable difference in any way. There's no functionality that's worth anything to gamers that's going to show up if you're running the game in Windows 8. You will not be able to tell a difference side by side. So there's no need to upgrade your OS just to get the complete Battlefield 4 experience. Next, they also mention the CPU, which should be an Intel quad-core or AMD 6-core chip. That's pretty much true. However, if you have a strong Intel dual-core chip with, say, hyper-threading to kind of act as virtual 4 cores, you'll still be good to go as long as your graphics card can pick up the slack. Next, let's talk about graphics cards. They recommend an AMD 7870 or an NVIDIA GTX 660 but they're also suggesting that your card have 3 gigabytes of memory. Battlefield 4 does not need that much memory. In fact, most games use around maybe 1 gigabyte of video RAM, and you can be confident that you will not have a memory bottleneck if you have at least 2 gigs of video RAM. The 3 gig number is thrown in there because of a strategic marketing partnership with AMD. Their top few graphics cards basically have 3 gigabytes natively. NVIDIA's competing cards in the same price segments, they generally have 2 gigabytes of video RAM, but they will not be at a disadvantage, so a GTX 660, for instance, at 2 gigabytes will still be able to run just as fast as a GTX 660 with 3 gigabytes, for example. You only need 3 gigabytes plus if you're running the game across multiple monitors or using a resolution that's well over 1080p, so don't worry about that. Lastly, you have the 8 gigabyte recommendation for system memory. Now, memory is cheap, and 8 gigabytes won't set you back much, but 4 gigabytes is enough on a modern platform, especially at 1600 megahertz or so. In fact, I know for a fact that 3 gigabytes in triple channel mode on an X58 platform will not see any measurable performance loss when playing the most intense games like Battlefield 3, for instance. Hopefully I've helped clear up a little bit of that hardware confusion as far as Battlefield 4 goes. I mean, in a nutshell, if you could max out Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 is only a little bit more intensive, so you probably won't need to upgrade your PC for it. Don't be intimidated by the hype. Battlefield 4 will be a beautiful game and very graphics intensive, but it's not a generational leap on PC.